Hi everyone, so this is our last video for measurements. We'll just be looking at two CXC past paper questions on measurements. The first one we're looking at is January 2012. This question, let's go through it together. It says, the diagram below not drawn to scale shows a cuboid with length 13 cm, width 4 cm and height 8 cm. So here we have our length, our width, and our height. State in terms of h, so looking at part 1 now, state in terms of h the area of the shaded face of the cuboid. So the shaded face is right here, right? So you want to know the area of the shaded face. So we could do part 1 right over here. So that face, what is the shape of that? That's a rectangle, so we know area is length by breadth or length by width, right? In this case, it will just be what? H by 4, right? Or length in that case is h, right? So this area is 4h, and you could just put cm squared, right? So that's part 1. So now let's look at part 2. Part 2 says, write an expression, again in terms of h, for the volume of the cuboid. So remember, I would have mentioned before, the formula for volume of a cuboid is something you need to remember. So volume of a cuboid is length by width by height. Very easy formula to remember. So in terms of h, what would this be? They gave us our length, which was 13. So that's 13 times our width, which is 4, times our height, which is h. So our volume simply by just multiplying 13 by 4. So we could add there quickly. 3 by 4 is 12, right? And then 1 by 4, we get 52. So 52h. And we could put cm cube because it's for the unit, right? Now, if you realize there's just 1 mark each for part 1 and part 2, those were pretty easy parts anyways, right? The real thing comes now in part 3, where it says the volume of the cuboid is 286 cm cube, calculate the height. So now we can do part 3 right here. So this says the volume of the cuboid is this amount. So the volume is equal to 286 cm cube. Calculate the height. Now in part 2, we found an expression in terms of h for the volume of the cuboid. So 52h, that is equal to that number, that volume that they gave us, the 286. So therefore, our height, remember this is 52 times h. So 52 times h is equal to 286. So our height will be 286 divided by 52. Opposites are multiplying by 52 is division by 52. And when we work out that, we get our height to be 5.5 centimeters. So far, so good. This was actually one of the easier ones. It's pretty straightforward. I think what sometimes when students get tied up with, like how part 1 and part 2 says, state in terms of h, right? It's just an expression, right? And some students, for some reason, they go and work out to get some value. No, they just want your answer in terms of h, meaning they have to have h, because we don't know what h is. Only in part 3, we had to find h. So now we're looking at January 2013 question on measurements. But it says, Fresh Farms Dairy sells milk in cartons in the shape of a cuboid with internal dimensions 6 by 4 by 10, and it's shown in the diagram here, right? So 6 is my length, 4 is the width, and the 10 is the height. Calculate in cm cube the volume of the milk in each carton. So we can do part 1 right in the corner here. So the volume, it's a cuboid. So just like the last question, length by width by height. So the volume would be 6 times 4 times 10. And 6 times 4 is 24. And 24 times 10 is 240. So it's really 240 cm cube. And that's part 1. Now let's look for part 2. Alright, so one little error here. This is not from January 2013. I made a little mistake there, but it's from a past paper. Alright, so number 2, a recipe for making ice cream requires 3 liters of milk. How many cartons of milk should be bought to make the ice cream? Now, first of all, let's do part 2 right here. 3 liters of milk. Since our question is working in cm cube for volume, let's change that to cm cube, right? Remember to change from liter is 1 liter is equal to 1,000 cm cube. So 3 liters would be 3,000 cm cube, right? Now, we want to know how many cartons of milk should be bought. So what we have to do here is the number of cartons, number of milk cartons will simply be cm cube divided by the 240. And that will give us how many milk cartons is needed. And you will get 12.5. So again, 1 liter is 1,000 cm cube, so 3 liters is 3,000 cm cube. The ice cream requires 3,000 cm cube of milk. We know that one milk carton has 240 cm cube. So the number of cartons then, if you want to look at it like this as well, 240 cm cube equals 1 carton cm cube, right? But all you have to do is just say 3,000 divided by 240. And now let's look at our last part. So now it says 1 carton of milk is poured into a cylindrical cup. So that means cylindrical cup, cylinder, right? Of internal diameter of cm. What is the height of milk in the cup? So now 1 carton, which is 240 cm cube, that goes into the cylindrical cup. That means that the volume of the cylindrical cup is going into the cup, right? And also, if I had to make a little sketch of this cylindrical cup, right? So it is telling us the diameter, remember the bottom here is a circle, the diameter is 5, right? So if the diameter is 5, that means our radius half of 5, which is 512, right? So now we want to find out the height of the cup, the milk in the cup. So now, since it's a cylinder, looking back to the formula given in the formula sheet, again, it's given to you pi r squared by height, and they told us to use pi as 3.14. So my volume, actually let's switch around the formula one time. So we have our unknown. So pi is 3.14 multiplied by r squared, so that's radius squared. So 5 over 2 times 5 over 2 times h, and that's equal to 240, which is my volume. And now we're just going to simplify that, work it out. When we multiply this here, okay, just wanted to write, right. So when we multiply this, we get 19.625 times h equals 240. So my height would be 240. So I'm just going to go over that because something happened just now with the recording. So yes, for here now, we multiply 3.14 by 512 by 512, we got 19.625 times h, and that's equal to the 240. So h alone is equal to 240, opposite of multiplying by 19.625 will be division by 19.625. And I just use a calculator to work that out. So on a calculator, what you have to do, you just punch in 240 divided by 19.625, and you will get 12.2. The axis for 12. This one wasn't too bad, right? Give it a try. Actually go over all the questions from the last video, this video, right? It just takes practice. You all know the formula. The formula for, as I said, with the cylinder, it is given to you all in the formula sheet that you all met earlier on, or I showed you all earlier on. The volume of a cube or cuboid, you have to know that by heart. Those are the easier ones, right? So any questions, feel free to ask. And this is basically the end of measurements. There are obviously many more questions, CSEC past papers with measurements. Feel free to try it and I can correct and so on. So I'll see you all in my next video.